Take a good look at this planet the Enterprise is approaching. There is a distinct land bridge, meaning this is the planet Haven, which means we should never see this land bridge on any other planet, right? This is a Star Trek Critic. Each episode starts with 100 points, with 1 point taken away for each error, while I make annoying comments all the way through. This is unique. The Class M planet in the Beta Cassius system is called Haven, not Beta Cassius 3 or 4, like they do with Rigel and several other planets. Haven has mystical healing powers and heals broken hearts. That sounds like foreshadowing to me, and Picard says those tales sometime come true. Well, that's the plot of Haven, so there's really no more reason to watch the rest of this show, since it does have first season clunky plot problems, and the first point will be lost for a clunky plot. This makes you wonder just what other types of holograms does Riker watch? The next point is lost because the door magically knows when to open just for Riker to go through. The Chief of Security does not need the first officer present to beam a box aboard, so -1 point. What Tasha really called him over was to ask, why do your holographic hotties have 1980s hairstyles? Deanna randomly appears at the right time, so -1 point. Tasha's wondering, how did Quark fit in that little box? A box of jewels is great for a 12-year-old, but pretty impractical for a Starfleet officer, so -1 point. And -1 point since there is no way Betazoids have arranged marriages. Deanna was on vacation with family in the last episode, but somehow didn't know this was going on, so -1 point. Just how many years has she been on this one-year mission? Seriously, genetic bonding could not be a Betazoid tradition. Obviously, they never met Deanna's mother. Wait, Picard says, Will, you and your husband. I think he's got this mixed up, doesn't he? Deanna hasn't even talked to them yet, so -1 point for telling Picard she won't be staying on the ship. Now comes Will Riker's turn to overact. The director said, just think you're William Shatner. That's what she said. -1 point here. They broke up years ago. Riker didn't even know she was going to be on the ship until she showed up at Farpoint, so he's really just being a big whiner. And -1 point for Deanna not telling him about an arranged marriage she was in when they were dating. -1 point for neither party contacting Deanna about this. -1 point for both parties knowing the Enterprise would be at Haven. Picard's thinking, wait a minute, weren't you the Federation president several years ago? So the parents are polite enough not to say she doesn't look at all like the girl in Wyatt's drawings. -1 point for none of them looking up a photo of her. And Mrs. Troy is on the surface and a total telepath. She would have told Wyatt that he was drawing someone else, so -1 point, because Mrs. Troy would be happy to help put Wyatt in the right path, simply not to be in-laws with the Millers. They all think Mrs. Troy is the third baseman. Arranged marriages in India have been done for centuries, and the couples do correspond with each other for the entire time. They really screw up arranged marriages in the future, don't they? If you notice, he's not working the controls, so the Haven transporter operator must be doing this completely. Now it's time to welcome Loxana Troy. One thing about Mrs. Troy, she always brings humor to the Enterprise. Look closely, the flower is up, now it's down, -1 point. Here is some Lost Troy history. The previous valet, Mr. Zelo, tried to rid Deanna of her father's accident and was fired. Of course, in the 7th season episode Dark Page, Mr. Hom was the valet when Deanna was a baby. Either Hom quit and came back, or the writers forgot about Zelo, so -1 point for continuity. Incredible! The guest quarters look just like Commander Riker's quarters with beads hanging everywhere. No wonder she wasn't impressed. -1 point for none of them telling her there are environmental settings on the wall. Picard is thinking, if I become an ambassador, am I going to put up with that shit every single day? And while we're on the subject of shadows on the set, where is this shadow coming from? And if it's a beta set tradition, why are the humans the ones that brought it up? Or are the Millers just trying to finally get their son out of the house and actually meet his fantasy woman? How old were Wyatt and Deanna when they made these vows? Like 5? Advanced societies just would not do that with kids, so -1 point. Her name is Valletta Innes. Her title is Electorine. It turns out Haven has a Stargate, and there will be some cross-series promotion going on here. Picard says, okay, we'll go check it out. Of course she's happy they're here. They're supposed to go on shore leave and spend tons of money. Deanna goes to Wyatt's room before they're married. Yes! Wyatt gets so excited he performs the Picard maneuver. And you should never ever apologize for other people's behavior. It makes you look guilty too. So her only other boyfriend was Commander Riker? She really doesn't play the field much, does she? Not at all like her mother. The whole purpose of this was to see if she was the girl in Wyatt's mind. He could have just called her, so -1 point. He should really go see a psychologist if this vision is constantly haunting him. Look at the painting in the background. So why did it flip? -1 point. -1 point for the captain's log talking down to the audience like we forgot everything during the commercials. Starfleet is an Earth organization. The customs of the planet your mother was born on don't apply, since you're not a resident of the planet, so -1 point. That would be like saying a Chinese law applies to an American whose parents came from China. There it is, the Tyrellian plague ship. -1 point for calling Dr. Crusher to the bridge. If it's urgent, they should just call her and have her look out her window. Look closely. Can somebody verify if this object is the Enterprise? Impressive if it is, because this was done before CGI. Tyrella was a planet that had a war, they created a plague, and everybody died. There's nothing wrong with Star Trek warning the human race that this is possible, which I endorse. However, the Next Generation crew always acts like those days are over and they're all a bunch of fairy princesses. -1 point for 20th century Earth bashing. If they have that level of technology, how do they end up in a spaceship with warp speed? So who's flying the ship? It must be Worf and Wesley. However, Worf isn't in the show, so -1 point, and Wesley isn't in the show either, so -1 more point. The Millers want Picard to perform the ceremony instead of asking for the ship's chaplain, so -1 point. And Mrs. Troy wants Mr. Hom to perform the wedding. Shout out to the editors for leaving this glitch in the show.
But Hom can't even talk.
That makes it much more lifelike. I think Data and Mr. Hom are the only two enjoying the evening. Mrs. Troy cites her title for the first time, and you never see the rings or the chalice. And then she quotes her favorite Who song. Picard says, "Quit all your fighting, let's eat." And -1 point because here is spelled wrong. The women all had their hair done for the event, but not the men. That's sexist. You never do find out where Mr. Hom comes from, but don't ask if he's human. Aren't all viruses biological? Don't tell Mrs. Troy, but I got a photo of her shoving food in her face. Picard gets after Data for buzzing about. This is to give Data a reason to say intriguing at least once in the show. -1 point for putting these two together at the table, seriously. Never be afraid of a pet plant. However, it was too scary for Commander Riker, so he manages to sneak out of the party. Deanna's face says, "Don't you leave me here by myself, don't do it, but he does it. Riker leaving was a plot device so he doesn't freak out about a Betazoid wedding, so -1 point. Tasha's like, hell yeah, let's hear the whole thing. But does Deanna want to go naked in front of everybody? Probably not. The in-laws are wondering, why does Data still want to hear us fight? And poor Wyatt is thinking, I'm not going to get laid on my wedding night, am I? Aww. Data says intriguing again. -1 point because the arch should have also disappeared, not just the door. Is Riker having a woke liberal emotional meltdown, or is he trying to figure out how to make his heart girls full size and fully functional? Either way, -1 point for his overacting in the situation. Deanna is the one forced into a shotgun wedding and she's not even pregnant. The Millers just dug up some old paperwork to finally get Wyatt out of the house. Deanna mansplains to Commander Riker again. She does mansplain a lot, no wonder he left her. -1 point for no door sounds when Wyatt enters. Deanna and Riker are thinking, oh good, here comes the 30-year-old medical doctor who still lives with his parents and can't get a girlfriend. Deanna's thinking, no wonder his parents gave me all those jewels, it was a bribe. How many times in the series does she call him Bill? Riker says, Deanna, I'm gonna take off, good luck with your new problem. Wyatt poses like Peter Pan. Deanna's asking, do I really have to take my clothes off for this guy? Well shit, I do. But what's up with Deanna not saying no? That doesn't sound like her. Now they kiss, and Wyatt's trying to see how close he can get his hand to get in a good feel. The Electorine is having a fit. She wants the plague ship shot down so the Enterprise crew can go on shore leave and spend money on her planet. -1 point for waiting for this ship to get this close to Haven. So you have to capture a plague ship in your tractor beam for them to respond. Deanna says, all this time I thought his dream woman was going to be a genie, but she has a belly button, so I was wrong. According to this captain's log, point 1 has passed, which is about 45 minutes, so -1 point. It's been at least a day and a half. Ren wants to know why the Enterprise has captured his plague ship in a tractor beam. But they're all wondering, why do you have Worf's chair on your ship? No wonder he didn't show up to work this week. Have you ever wondered how they know Wyatt's name, but he doesn't know Ariana's name? Wyatt's thinking, I always drew her with more clothes on. Ren wants Picard to ask the Electorine if 8 people carrying a plague that could wipe out the planet can buy some land. While Picard is thinking, great, I have to negotiate that and officiate a nude wedding at the same time. What else could happen? And all the bead curtains in her quarters have disappeared, so -1 point. Mrs. Troy explains what is going on as simply as she can. It was in the script. The next point is lost since Dr. Crusher goes to the captain to say the supplies are ready instead of quickly telling him on the intercom. That gives Wyatt the chance to steal the knockout drug. And -1 point for leaving knockout drugs out for anybody to steal. Does anybody know what the name of that painting is? I'd love to have it. Deanna should realize he's planning on leaving the ship, but she doesn't, so -1 point. This is a really good sign he's leaving for good. Of course, they're too busy having marital problems to realize that, aren't they? The transporter chief gets zapped, but we'll see him again in the 4th season. Wyatt performs the Picard maneuver one last time, and he would not know which transporter button to push, so -1 point. Wyatt's thinking, oops, I left my drawings of her on the Enterprise. She's going to be pissed. Ren says, hello Wyatt, now you have the plague too. The Millers are pissed. Wyatt says he's going to help cure them as long as he doesn't catch the plague and die from the disease first. Poor Deanna, her fiancé left her for a blonde with a deadly disease that will probably kill him. Aww. The Millers are secretly relieved. They finally got Wyatt out of the house and there is no way he can move back in. Mrs. Troy is on a manhunt. She'll be back next year in the episode Manhunt. Picard is too old and Riker is quasi-taken.
Thank you for the drinks.
Was Picard thinking anything, or was she just making a joke? We will never know. Riker says the only eye of the show, and the last point is lost because they left Haven. They were supposed to stop there for shore leave. So who was on the plague ship? Michael Ryder will be back one more time in the 4th season. Donata Kingsley was Ariana. She has 12 screen credits, including Amazon's. Ray Burke played Ren. He is an acting instructor and has 113 screen credits, including Alf, The X-Files, and will be back one more time on Insurrection. Anna Katerina was born in Switzerland and was on The Incredible Hulk and the Star Trek movie in 2009. Carol Struycken was born in Belgium, and he will be back several more times. Robert Ellenstein was also the Federation president on Star Trek IV, was in V, the villain in the Moonlighting pilot, and 100 other shows starting in the 1950s. Nan Martin was Wyatt's mother. She has 139 screen credits, including Twilight Zone, Bewitched, and Shallow Hal. Robert Knepper played Wyatt with 140 screen credits, including The Twilight Zone, The Hunger Games, and we will see him again on Voyager. And Deanna's mother was played by the voice of the ship's computer. Haven, the show that doesn't fit Betazoid continuity anymore, but does warn the world about global viruses, gets a score of 59. Thanks for reviewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.